Hey, what's going on? This is your boy E. Jones, bottom to the top hoops. We're here with the Howard brothers, the legendary Garry Howard. What's going on? My man Reggie Howard, here in Charlotte, North Carolina, NBA All-Star Weekend. Here to talk a little bit about New York City basketball, the history of it, and these guys' impact that we had. I'll start with the older brother, Garry Howard. Obviously, you guys are from the Bronx.
Yes, sir.
Mitchell houses. A storied career in terms of what you've done as a player, right? First, then as a journalist, and a lot of the groundbreaking things that you've done, the careers that you've helped foster, and just talk a little bit about how your story unfolded, starting off in the Bronx, and then how you got into journalism and how you segued from basketball to that.
Mitchell houses the fact that Mitchell House is one of the few of the housing projects all built by Robert Moses in New York City that actually had a gymnasium. Okay. And then a elementary school attached to it. Okay. So if you put that there with a church right down the block and a precinct right up the street, those were all the factors. Okay. Plus, most of our homes had two-parent households at the time. Right. And Mitchell was a new thing that opened up in the early 60s. So what we had was a place for us to meet and for us to see where we were going. Right. If you don't see the path or see what's in front of you, then you don't know where you're going. And for me, that had a lot to do with it. My early years at PS 154, which is a school that was built for you to do well. Okay. You go from 1 to 6, and all of us who went to Mitchell houses went through the same teachers, Miss Sessa and all of that. My brother Reggie was 4 years behind me. Okay. But what it gave us was a sense of foundation. Okay. And then you throw in the basketball factor. Okay. Having the fact that we were fortunate enough to have a Hall of Famer in Nate Tiny Archibald, who was more of a friend than he was as a mentor, as a big brother, but he gave so much back to us as far as basketball by bringing the basketball world to us. See, is a tangible thing that here's a guy who was from the area you're from, somebody who made it to the highest level, and not only was he playing in the NBA, he was thriving. Right. And it was like, hey, this is our guy, right? He was the hero of the neighborhood. Right. And then this inspiration along with something that's tools and jewels that he's giving you guys to be able to say, you know what, we're going to be like Tiny, not just from a basketball standpoint. From a success standpoint. Exactly. You have to understand this, Eric. Tiny never came back home and said, I played for the Celtics, so I played, I led the league in scoring and assists in the same season. He never talked about that. I like to have a friend, somebody who I grew up with that works in the post office, that has a job, that is doing something possible. Right. That's going to college and finishing college. Right. They had to kick and drag Tiny to go to school. Like that would have been his fault because it took him a while to actually come around to the educational part of being basketball. He was a great basketball player, but once he went to junior college, he had to go that route because he wasn't going to be able to get into a Division I school. Right. So for us, being his mentees, Reggie, myself, all the guys, the Strickland brothers, the Burnett's, the Coopers, all of us from Mitchell houses, Saeedeen, all the people who were around, we were able to actually say, okay, we want to go straight through. The road less traveled. Now you want to go that way. Okay, you're not just basketball, you're poeting. Listen, man, now I'm going to ping pong over to the little brother, but my big brother. The younger brother. Yeah, there you go. My man Reggie Howard, obviously playing days at City College, was able to transition into coaching. Obviously your career has spanned over 2 decades, working with Riverside Church, obviously coaching at Purchase and coaching at Rucker High School and a bunch of other places. Talk a little bit about where you have seen the game come from, where it is now, and what we need to do to kind of get back to the glory days and making sure that New York City basketball is in a place where we can take pride in our city, the game, and kind of where it's going.
The AAU side, and you have the high school basketball and the college side. Okay. Not to say that one side is illegitimate and one side is legitimate, but the AAU side, as you know, is the street ball scene. You have a lot of guys who are great AAU coaches. They're great coaches. Don't get me wrong. But then on the other side, you have high school coaches and you have college coaches, and some guys can make the transition. I was fortunate enough, my brother mentored me to go to college, get my degree. Once I got my degree, it was important for me. I became a school teacher. My dream was to be in the NBA. So when I look at basketball today, I'm saying to myself, I think we have to be able to connect it. You know what I'm saying? Where people will understand that, it's not about this faction, that faction. It's just coaching. It's all one community. You know what I'm saying? When you have guys who are qualified, you know what I'm saying, to be able to do what they do on either side, it doesn't matter. The aspect of helping the kid to achieve, to get to the next level, has to be priority. It's the most important thing.
It's bigger than you. Yeah. It's bigger than all of us.
It's bigger than me.
And it's about passing it down. That's what Reggie, I think he's speaking to legacy.
Well, he passed it on to me.
And he passed it on to you, Eric. I mean, you handling yourself. This show is very important because you bringing people who have experience.
Yes, credible people.
Credible people who have experienced life. Like you mentioned, my journalism career, which brought me to the heights of being editor-in-chief of Sporting News. The Milwaukee Journal Center for 15 years at the Sports Center. I had a staff of over 60. I've won an Emmy Award. I've been into the Hall of Fame for journalism in Milwaukee. Those things are still, I feel great. People talk about those things for me, but I'm happy that I played Division I basketball. I scored 135 points. You know what I mean? In my junior year, Brian Hill, who became a future NBA coach, but I made the varsity. I walked on and I ended up playing Division I, and that meant a lot to me. And I also got a chance to cover my younger brother, who was the captain of the CCNY when they played against NYU as a prelim to Georgetown and St. John's, who were then #1 and #2, and Reggie won MVP in that game in the Gardens. And I remember being a journalist covering the game. I got a vote in front of me for the MVP.
Come on now.
Now, should I vote for this as knowing that he's my brother? And there's something also from an ethics standpoint, I decided not to. But Reggie won. Reggie won the MVP, and to this day, all things work. But I was worried because I said, why didn't I vote? I'm from the Bronx. We from Mitchell. You vote for your brother. But that's what I was thinking, that you internalize what's going to be necessary for you to make decisions based on who you become. And I was a journalist, and if that is your brother, you have a conflict of interest and you should not. So I deferred on that because I already knew Reg played gold. I was like this, you know, and I'm trying to
like, out of your journalist mode for a second.
Well, no, I'm trying to stay in. I was in it because at the time, you got to be and I was sitting courtside with a little journalist thing.
Right, but the other side of you was like, my brother doing the stick.
So I think that's what he's speaking to, like, you know, you see that and you pass it on from myself, and then, you know, see my brother become captain of his team. I walked on to the varsity at Lehigh University. He was captain of the team. So you see, each generation gets to do it better. But if they don't see the steps we take, Eric, if they don't see the steps we take, then they may not know that they still have a journey to go, but it's going to be fine and everything's going to work out for them.
It's the implementation, and Reg, I think you spoke to a little bit of it. As I look at it now and where the game is, I feel like there's a lot of things that are being given to kids without them having to earn it. And how do I ask a kid to maintain humility when at 12 years old, you're on YouTube, you're on TV, you know, you're being given things. There's people who are telling you how great you are. So how do you now pull the reins back and say, hey, make sure you put school first? How do you maintain that balance?
I think it's important for us to be flexible as coaches, but be honest with ourselves and help them to be honest with themselves.
Good
and understand that, you know,
good point.
At the end of the day, you still have to qualify.
Yes.
No matter what, you have to measure up. You have to meet the standards. They understand what meeting the standards is. You know, as a teacher in the New York City Education Department, you know, I mean, our thing is all about standards.
Right.
You know, if you're not meeting the standard, then, I mean, you won't measure up. So, hey, let's look at it sports-wise. If you're not meeting the standards, you won't measure up. So at the end of the day, either you pay the price now or you're going to pay the price later. We have to be flexible sometimes to understanding the emotional side of today's kid, but also help them appreciate that, hey, listen, you have to go to college.
It's balance, man.
You know, you have to have an education. Yeah. You have to pass the regents. You have to pass all your classes and your courses in order to qualify to graduate. And then when you get into college, you have to measure up, because if you don't make it, I mean, you know, the coach won't deal with any of the stuff that you're doing.
And so you bring me to another point, and I want to kind of get both of your perspective on this. As a kid starts to go through his journey and becomes a better basketball player, and you're on your way through AAU in high school, and you're seeing yourself on that level of the Division I, the NBA, or whatever the case may be, finding that fine line of balance, because it's always been said to us, if you want to be great, you got to put the work in.
Yes.
But now the work is what? Like, are you 50% basketball, 50% school? Like, I can speak to my own experience.
You're 100% for everything.
There you go.
You understand? It's a difference. Do you know how hard it was to play Division I basketball before you think you want to play? All right, you got to run the stadium steps. You got to run a mile under 3-4 minutes, 5 minutes. You have to do work to put yourself in a physical condition. But it's the same thing in education. If you know, you cannot be a journalist if you can't write. If you don't know how to use a comma, I can't help you. You can't tell me you want to be on my our team and you want to write for the sporting news, and I'm gonna pay you a column. It's gonna be, I'm gonna pay you $135,000 a year to write a column for me, and you can't write. How would I do that?
Qualified. I mean, that's what Reggie said.
Reggie said speaks to the standards that we need to reach to and we need to aspire to. So I had a standard for Reggie as his older brother.
Yeah, and you set a
you
standard.
are going to do this.
It's not negotiable.
Because I was a little bigger than him back then, so you know what I mean, right?
You're a little big now.
No, I ain't messing with Reggie. No.
There you go.
He can do 100 push-ups right now. I can do about 2.
Okay.
Right.
I'm at about 1. but I think as Garry spoke to, the standard and putting 100% into education and basketball and being well-rounded, you give yourself options. And I think kids are only seeing a limited amount of options, so the exposure to things, although we're in a technological space where we can find and see everything, kids are only seeing a small part of the pie, because in our neighborhoods and communities, we need to do a better job of exposing kids to writing and culture and travel and all of those things. So our kids have to know and be able to see there's more out there for us in terms of opportunity. And I think, if, in my most humble opinion, the coaches have to take on some responsibility in terms of telling kids basketball is great. But you know what? Let's go see a play next week.
Tell them they have to internalize it.
Gary, let me jump in, not to cut you off.
Go ahead, Reggie.
When I was coaching at the Gauchos, I'm an original Gaucho, being the first midget with David Collins. You know, myself, Edric, Rod Strickland, Empire Strickland. But when I was coaching there, I already had my diploma. I was a school teacher already. So, you know, the kids look up to me and I said, listen, at the end of the day, you guys got to understand, I didn't make it to the NBA, which may be your goal. However,
you should have, Reggie. You should have.
Though, it's okay.
Make your point.
You know, I'm a school teacher. I'm having an impact on children's lives each and every day. I stood in front of my community center, and everybody would say, hey, what's up, Mr. Howard? How you doing, Mr. Howard? I wasn't concerned with that, but they knew me to be a teacher in the community. And so now you're still having an impact on this particular landscape, but in a different fashion. You know, for me, the numbers is the most important thing now. I always give kids the facts. There's only 450 jobs in the NBA. There's only 4,000 jobs in NCAA Division I school. So how does that information inform you? What do you do with that information? What is it telling you? That's telling you that if you're not working that hard, because there's hundreds of thousands of basketball players.
Window closes.
Right. And so when your window's shutting and shutting and shutting, what are you doing about it?
No, but it's opening up.
Right, at the same time.
So you have to be aware, you have to be conscious, and you have to be truthful with yourself. To be able to understand. So in closing, guys, the thing I want to kind of just focus on and share, if there's anything that you can share with young people about your career and how the span of it and the success that you've created for yourself, and obviously so many other people, journalists that I've seen and heard give you credit for starting their careers and being a pioneer, what could you share with young people, just kind of just something to leave them with?
Like, I have to look at it this way, and it's pretty simple. Went to boarding school for 4 years, finished at the Lawrenceville School, graduated, went to Lehigh University. It took me 5 years to finish because I switched from the business school to journalism school. And I got out and graduated, and I couldn't find a job, and nobody would hire me. There was no one that looked like me that was in newsrooms, and I had a long way to go. I sent out probably 100 letters because we had to put a stamp on an envelope and all that and wait for a response, looking at the mailbox every day, and nothing came. So I started on my first jobs was as an obituary reporter. Because it was a reporter's position, but I was writing obituaries every day. And I went from the obituaries to covering the Olympics in Lillehammer, Norway for the Philadelphia Inquirer as deputy sports editor. And that wasn't it. I ended up being the editor-in-chief of Sporting News. So I went from the very bottom to the top. They wrote a song
bottom to the top.
Saying I was going to leave that, but you was an excellent host. I figured you got that. So
that's an assist. I got to shoot that.
If you look at all the things that Reggie had talked about, the standards that we once reached to, putting yourself in a position to be there, because Reggie has done that for me. I could be more proud of anyone in my life, and he just happens to be my younger brother. And I say this, if I can go there from obituary reporter to covering the Olympics in Lillehammer, Norway, to covering the Olympics in Sydney, Australia for 3 weeks and getting paid. Are you kidding me? There it is. That's a beautiful thing, and it can happen to you too.
There you go. So, and for you, Reg, if you can share anything with the young student athletes that we need to impact and impart wisdom on, what would you share?
You have to be real with yourself. And at some point, you have to look in the mirror and say to yourself, okay, am I that good? Am I what everybody else is saying that I am? You know, how much work do I need to put into this if I really want to be this? I always say, listen, be true to yourself, you know, at the end of the day, because you could lie to me, I could lie to you, but you know in your heart,
the mirror don't lie.
The mirror don't lie. So at the end of the day, you know, like Michael Jackson said, I'm looking at the man in the mirror.
That's right.
Like when you look at the man in the mirror, who are you? And what do you need to do in order to get from point A to point B? I'm a vehicle. I'll be there to help you. But you have to put the work in. So just be truthful with yourself. Be real with yourself. And then everybody will have a story to tell.
I think at the end of the day, we all want to be the best version of ourselves.
Yes.
I'm humbled and I'm grateful for you guys for taking the time to do this interview with us and sharing with the people.
Well, you Garry Howard, man. Appreciate you very much for having me.
Yes.
Broadway Jones.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. We're going to enjoy this All-Star Weekend. We signing off. Super producer, the Black Elvis, E. Jones, bottom to the top hoops.
Brew.
It's a real good on you on Facebook with Bobby Hunter. Yeah.
Hurry in today.
Are y'all good?
Country Hand Biscuits for just $3.
1, 2, 3.
City.
One more.
Now for the hottest game of the season. You have to be here.
There we go. Second video smash
on Instagram. That's his ball? Oh, okay.
Okay, now I got it. Now I need you to do. Oh, great.
That's time to go down. Hey, shoot. Oh, she said, I don't know why you keep playing with that ball in my living room. If you want to play with that ball, you can go outside.
But Jay Billis, you know, Mark Allery, you know, David Henderson, all came in the ACC together. Price.
Mark Strickland, he was off the bench with Duke.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. There was two dudes named Strickland that played on that team.
Yeah.
But that was the team that wound up going to the Final Four.
Yeah. That's the team that saved Coach K.
Right?
Yeah,
was that 84?
Yeah.
84.
No, that was 86.
Okay. That was the year.
That was my senior year. We lost to Kansas, and we almost went back to the Final Four my senior year. We lost to Kansas, Danny Manning and those guys in Kansas. You know, you know what I mean? We lost by like 7 or 8 points to them, and to go back to the Final Four. Like in my career at State, I won a national championship, went to two Final Eights. Almost made it back twice.
How many years did you play with Nate McMillan?
2.
Okay.
Yeah, two with Nate. You know, I was with Spud last night. Played 1 year with Spud. No, 2 years with Spud.
But that's crazy how when you look at the backcourt, right? At North Carolina State, you look at the national championship backcourt. Then you look at you and Nate, you and Spud. Then you look at Corciani and
how about Vinny Delacroix?
And it's like you gotta get
video. Yeah, 3 years. I'm Garry Howard. I was here. It's my house. My man Reggie. Thanks for bringing all these wonderful men in my house. They real good. They got jobs. They graduated. They did not kick them the hell out.
He was the fiery, like obviously you know me. I'm just saying what I saw. And I'm assuming what I saw was very close to who he was, because he seemed authentic.
The whole ACC was conservative, Southern, league. You know what I mean? Then they start. He recruited, Charlie Scott from New York. And it started that pipeline. Charlie Scott,
Jimmy Black,
Bill Chamberlain, all those guys that were coming from New York, going way back. When it was, real racism and they couldn't go, speak to Bill Chamberlain, he'll tell you all about it too. But Charlie Scott, and then then State started getting, black ball players, and then V comes in with, his New York personality, and you watch our 30 for 30, they talk about it in 30 for 30.
How many times did I watch it?
Right.
Come on, man.
Even Coach K said, they didn't like the way he, showed emotion when he won. You're supposed to win, and with, V was like, yeah, I won, like you do, like players.
Yes.
He showed that type of emotion, and Dean didn't like that. All the old Lefty didn't like, all those, old heads.
So my man, he was changing the whole culture of the league.
Yeah, he was changing the whole culture.
Yeah, he really was.
Yeah, college basketball, right? He started all the, he had a cookbook. He had, he was one of the highest paid coaches in college basketball back then. Yeah, he had the charisma. He was selling. He was selling cars. He was selling,
They got all the sports and all the teams.
He's such a pro, isn't he?
He's such a pro. Man. That's my man.
You doing it on the low too.
He kept a low profile though, Reggie. While Tracy Boston
Now you can buy faster.
Yeah, I guess I should be doing something here.
Start your paperwork online. Choose from actual financing options and receive a real Kelly Michael trade offer to get a no surprise monthly payment based on more information. Save time at the dealership when you start your deal online. Buy faster.
Thank you, baby. Wow, that's what I'm saying. That's my guy. He knocked me out when I was playing with him, but I made the varsity after that. So thank you, Lehigh University, my 135 points. Feel me?